Hello dear students, how are you? I hope you are keeping fine. I'd like to welcome you to the online class of Noakhali Government College. Dear students, as you see in the screen, today our topic is narration or speech. I know you have already got classes on narration, but today I will discuss specifically passage narration and we will also do some exercises on it. Dear students, narration or speech is a very important topic of your syllabus, but most of the cases I noticed that you do not do very well in this portion of the question. But if you follow our lectures that are uploaded in YouTube very attentively, I hope you will be able to do very well in this part of the question. So dear student, let's move. So before going to my topic directly, let me discuss some basic things, some definitions of narration or some important things here. So what is narration? I have written, you see, anything that is uttered by a speaker is called speech or narration. Dear students, in our day-to-day life, we speak, we talk. Whatever we talk, whatever we utter is actually known as narration or speech. Narration or speech can be categorized in two types. First one is direct narration and second one is indirect narration. What is direct narration? Direct narration is exactly what is uttered or spoken by a speaker. And when this speech is indirectly told by another speaker, then it turns to indirect narration. Alright? Then what is our job here? Our job is to transform or change direct narration into indirect one or indirect narration into direct one. For doing this job perfectly, we need to be aware of certain things. What are these things? See here on the screen. Basic things you have to be aware of. For changing direct speech into indirect speech, we have to be aware of 5 basic things. What are they? Speaker and the person spoken to or listener. Dear students, when you come across your question, you have to read out the passage very carefully and your first job will be to find out the speaker and the listener or the person spoken to. You have to be very careful about this. Then your second job is with the verb. You have to be very conscious about the verb. You may ask me, what should we be conscious of? You have to be conscious of the tense of the verb. That means whether the verb is in present form or past form. Alright. Then comes the third point, that is tense. That means the tense of the reported speech. You have to work with this. You have to change the tense according to the reporting verb. So this is the third point of which you have to be careful of. Number 4, sentence. You have also to be careful of the sentence patterns. That means the assertive, interrogative, imperative, optative or exclamatory. You have to be careful about these things. Then finally comes person. This one is also very important and I can say most important also, because you will come across so many persons in your passage or in your narration. You have to be very careful. You have to handle them very carefully. Otherwise, you will not do well in this part of the questions. So these are the things you have to be aware of. Dear students, I know you have already got classes where the elaborate rules of changing narrations have been discussed. Today, before going to the exercise, actually, I just want to give some hints over those things. All right. So, things you need to change while changing direct speech into indirect and vice versa. I told you that while changing narration from direct into indirect or indirect into the direct one, we actually don't need to change everything. We change certain basic things, then our job gets done. That means our changing is also done. What are those basic things? Let's see. First, basic thing that you need to change is reporting verb. Alright, then you have to change comma and inverted comma. You have to omit them, and instead of this comma and inverted comma, you have to use certain things. Alright, then you have to change, or we have to change person, then the tense. You have to tense or verb of the reported speech. If we change those four basic things, then our change of the narration is also gets done. All right. So dear students, let's move to the next part. So I told you that today my topic is with actually passage narration. All right. So I told you, and would like to remind you that if you can perfectly change the sentences from direct into the indirect one or indirect into the direct one, then passage narration is just a fun. You will easily be able to change passage narration. That means direct passage into indirect one or indirect passage into direct one. Alright, and by this time you have got classes on how to change sentences from direct to indirect and indirect to direct. So I am not going to give you elaborate description on this. Rather, I would like to focus on passage narration. Before changing a passage, you have to be aware of some basic things. What are they? They are: look. Follow the following steps gradually. Gradually, remember. Number one, read the passage carefully and find out the speaker and the person spoken to. So, dear students, I would like to remind you that you have to read the passage at least twice to find out who is the speaker and who is the listener. Alright, this is your first step. In case of the absence of the speaker and the person spoken to, use the speaker as subject and the listener as object. Sometimes you will find that the speaker and listener are hidden. You cannot find them out. In that case, you have to use the speaker and the listener as subject and object. Alright, so this is the first point. Number two, point number two, sentence, assertive sentence. In assertive sentences, if a single speaker speaks for the first time, you have to use said that. Remember, you have to use said that. If that speaker speaks second time, you have to use added that. And you have to use further added that, again said, also said, etc. if the same speaker speaks for the third time. Okay, so this is very important point. You have to remember this. Okay, so now come to the interrogative sentence. Use asked for the first question. That means if a person makes one question, then you have to use asked. If the same person makes another question, then you have to use again asked. Alright. So use asked for the first question. Use again asked for second question of the same person. So this is the first point of the interrogative sentences. Second point. In answer, use reply that. That means when reply comes, then you have to answer with reply that. In case of replies with yes or no, we know that answers of the question or to the question may come with yes or no. In the cases, we have to use what? Reply in affirmative if the answer comes with yes. Alright. And reply in the negative if the answer starts with no. Alright, remember these things. Number 4, for some, use addressing a sir. Sometime you will find that some addressing will come like sir, father, brother, sister, etc. In that cases, you have to use, for sir, you will use addressing as sir or respectfully stated, or for any kind of addressing like friends, brothers, father, mother, sister, etc. We have to use addressing them as friends, brothers, father, mother, etc. Okay, remember these things. Number 5, any short expression or phrase of direct speech should be written in details in indirect speech. Note this point very carefully, or notice this point very carefully. Sometimes you will see that in direct speech some short or some short expression or phrase will be used. But while you will change this direct speech into indirect one, you have to write them elaborately. That means you have to bring out the hidden meaning that are actually hidden inside the short expression and write them in details in your indirect form of your answer. And if you change indirect into direct, you have to follow or remind these things. Also you have to compress the elaborate version into shorter one. All right, so remember this point. Anyway, few more things of which you have to be aware of. See, if you come across expressions like Allah or by God, etc. in your direct speech, you have to use swearing by Allah or God. And for thank you, you have to use thanked. And this thanked will be followed by an object. For goodbye, you have to use bade goodbye. And if you come across okay, you have to use agreed to. For example, if you find sentences like okay, I'll come, that means he agreed to the proposal and said that he will come. You have to write like this. For good morning or good night, you have to use wished. Remember, wished, good morning and good night. And for expressions like will, well, you see, etc., you no need to rewrite them in your indirect form. Remember, you no need to remember them in your indirect form. This type of expressions will be omitted in the indirect form. Alright? Question in assertive. Remember, sometimes you will find that assertive sentences will be followed by interrogative or question mark. Alright, in those cases you have to use being surprised or being surprised asked. So dear student, these are the basic things that will be required to answer or to change direct narration into indirect one, or direct passage narration into indirect one, and indirect passage into direct one. Alright, so let's move to the exercise now. Exercise number 1, change the narrative style by using indirect speeches. So your questions will be set like this. You will find this type of questions in your script, in your question paper, and let's see how we will write in our script. Have you saved something for future? Said the rich man. Dear student, let me remind you, I told you that when you change or when you come across this question, you have to read out the passage at least twice, and then you have to find out the speaker and the listener. Alright, so let me read out the passage. Have you saved something for future? Said the rich man. So the rich man is the speaker. That means the rich man is our subject. No, said the cobbler. So the cobbler is our object. So we have found out our subject and the object, that means our speaker and the person spoken to. I am happy with the present and think little about tomorrow. No, that would not do, said the rich man. I like to see you above want, have this money and keep it. Dear student, let me remind you something. That is how we will change the person and how our tense will get changed. Let me remind you. Change of person is a very important part of your changing narration. Okay, this change of person follows some rules. What are these rules? You see, change of person of reported speech depends on gender, number, and person of the subject of the reporting verb. Remember, person of the subject of the reporting verb. Study the following rules. See, first person changes according to the subject or speaker. Be very attentive to these points. First person changes. That means if you come across first person that are used inside the reported speech, that first person will change according to the subject or the speaker. Look at this example. He said to me, I have finished my homework. See, this first person will get changed according to the subject. That's why we have to write like this. He told me that this he is changed according to this subject or this he. He had finished his homework. Alright. Then 2. Second person changes according to the object or the person spoken to according to the object. Remember. So this is also important. Another important point. Second person will get changed according to the object or the listener or the person spoken to. Look at this example. He said to me, you have finished your homework. See, you, second person. So this you will change according to this me. That means the object. He told me that I had finished my homework. Alright. So let's go to the third point. Third person changes. That means if you find any third person inside your reported speech, how you will change them? You have to change them. Third person changes, no change of person. That means you don't have to change them. That means if you come across any third person inside your reported speech, you no need to change them. Alright, they will stay as they are. Look at the examples. He said to me, he has finished his homework. He told me that this he is unchanged here. He had finished he's also unchanged here, his homework. Alright. So a notice here. Let's see what is written there. Remember, other persons other than subject, that means the speaker and object, the person spoken to, remain unchanged. Very important note. If you come across any other persons other than, that means without subject or object, you no need to change them at all. Remember this point. Number 2, if we is used to mean mankind, that means if the pronoun we is used to mean the whole mankind or all, everyone, alright, or both the speaker and the listener, then you no need to change that we. Remember this point also. Now let's see how you will change the tense. Changing a tense in narration is also very important part of changing a narration. So let's see how you will change the tense. If the reporting verb is in present or future form, look, if the reporting verb, I told you to be careful about verb, that means reporting verb. If the reporting verb is in present or future form, the tense of the reported speech remains unchanged. That means we no need to change the tense of the reported speech if the reporting verb is in present or future form. Point number 1. Point number 2, again, see if the reported speech means some universal truth or habitual fact. The reported speech, then the tense of the reported speech remains unchanged. Very important point. Number 3, but if the reporting verb is in past form, most of the cases the reported verb is in past form. So in that case, we have to follow these rules. Okay, we have to follow these rules, and according to these rules, we have to change the tense of the reported speech. All right. So let's read out the rules. If the reported speech of the direct speech is in present indefinite tense, we have to change them to past indefinite tense. All right. And if the speech is in past indefinite tense, we have to change them to past perfect tense. Very clear here. Then, if the direct speech is in present continuous tense, we have to change it into past continuous tense. And if it is in past continuous tense, we have to change it to past perfect continuous tense. Alright. If the reported speech is in present perfect tense, we have to change it to past perfect tense. And if the reported speech is in past perfect tense, relax, you no need to change. Then, if the direct speech is in present perfect continuous tense, we have to change it to past perfect continuous tense. And if the reported speech is in past perfect continuous tense, again relaxed, you no need to change. So this is a very clear idea of how you will change our tense. I hope you got all these things very well. And now I will move to the exercise. All right. Have you said something for the future? For future, said the rich man. So our speaker is the rich man, and our listener is the cobbler. All right. So look at the sentence. This is interrogative sentence, and the question is made with auxiliary verb. We know that if questions are made with auxiliary verb, we have to use if. We have to use if. So our answers will be like, the rich man asks, as it is question, we have to replace said into asked. The rich man asks the cobbler. The asked will immediately be followed by the object, the cobbler, and the object will be followed by if the question is made with auxiliary verb. So the rich man asks the cobbler if he, look at the subject, he, you means second person. Second person changes according to the object. Remember this. The rich man asked the cobbler if he had saved something for future. See, the sentence is in present indefinite form. That's why we have changed it into past indefinite form. Had saved. Alright. The cobbler replied in the negative and said that, oh, alright. No, said the cobbler. So the cobbler replied with no. We know that if reply or answer comes with no, we have to use replied in the negative. So in our case, we have to use replied in the negative. The cobbler replied in the negative and said that I am happy with the present and think little about tomorrow. See, present indefinite form, and our reporting verb is in past form, so we have to change it to past indefinite form. So replied in the negative and said that he was happy with the present was from am and thought from think little about the next day. Alright, next day for tomorrow. No, that would not do. Look at this, notice this no. This no is used not to reply. This is actually used to disagree with the cobbler. So we have to write disagree. So our answer will be like, then the rich man disagreed and said that that would not do. Alright. I like to see you above want. This is again said by the rich man. That's why you have to use. He added that he liked to see him above want. I like to see you above one. He liked to see him above one. Have this money and keep it. Look at this sentence. This is in imperative form. So in case of imperative sentences, we have to use asked, request, etc. As we see that this is a kind of request, we have to use requested. He requested him to have that. And we know that the request will be followed by object and object will be followed by to. He requested him to have that money and keep it. Alright, so this is the first exercise. I hope you got it very well. Let's move to the second exercise. Exercise number 2. Where did you go yesterday? Said Lipi. So Lipi is our speaker. I went to Chattogram to see my mother, said Meena. So Meena is our listener. So we have found out our speaker and the listener. She has been suffering from high blood pressure, again told by Meena. Is she sound now? Said Lipi, again asked by Lipi. No, said Meena. Meena replied no. Alright, so look at this question. Previously, in the previous exercise, we found that question was made with auxiliary verb, but this time question is made with WH word. And we know that in case of WH word, we no need to change them. They will remain unchanged. So, Lipi asked Meena where she had gone the previous day. Alright, look at this point. This auxiliary verb and this object will get interchanged. They will replace each other. That's why you has come here and did has changed to had gone. Alright, so Lipi asked Meena where she had gone the previous day. As it was in past indefinite form, that's why we had to make it past perfect form. Alright, Meena, I went to Chattogram to see my mother. Meena replied. So Meena replied that when past indefinite form, the reported speech is in past indefinite form, so we have to change it into past perfect form. So Meena replied that she had gone to Chattogram to see her mother. She has been suffering from high blood pressure. This portion is added by Meena. So we have to write she. Meena added that she means mother. I told you that third person will not get changed. She had been suffering from high blood pressure. Is she sound now? Said Lipi. So this question is again made by Lipi, and this time she made this question with auxiliary verb. And we know that if questions are made with auxiliary verb, we have to use if. So Lipi again asked, as this is the second question of Lipi, so we have to use again asked Meena if she, third person will not change, she was sound then. Present tense transform or changed into past tense. Alright. Meena replied in the negative. That means as Meena replied with no, we have to write Meena replied in the negative and said that she was not sound then. Look, this part, Meena actually not said this. This is actually hidden inside no. And I told you that all hidden expressions should be brought out. We have to write them elaborately. Alright, that's why this hidden portion is written here. So, dear students, I hope you got this lecture very well. If you have any query, feel free to make questions in the comment section. I will definitely reply your comments and try to follow our lectures, and definitely try to stay connected with our Facebook group. And I will come again with another lecture another day. And up to this, stay safe. Definitely do more exercises at home and try to stay home and stay safe. Thank you so much.